Namo Buddhaya. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Sutta Study program. We generally begin with just a few minutes of silent meditation together while everyone arrives and gets settled. And so inviting you to find your meditation posture and settle in. And we'll begin in about 10 minutes. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome again to our afternoon Sutta Study program. Let's see, some of you I know were here this morning or have been here the past couple of weeks, and you may know that November for Dhammadharini is Death Awareness Month. We celebrate this every year. Throughout the month of November, we take the opportunity to contemplate the phenomenon of death from the point of view of the Dhamma, of the Buddha's teachings. So this is one part of our basic dilemma that the Buddha is trying to teach us the way out of. And it's just a reality that there is death, that it will come for all of us. And there's a lot of Dhamma that's focused on that. So this is a time to just sort of bring that all together and look at it, contemplate it together, have time to speak and share with each other about it, have time to read what the Buddha said about it, and just bring it into the open, not something to be hidden. It can't be hidden because it's there, it's a truth. If there is death, it will be coming. So, those of you who were here this morning for our meditation program, we did a meditation based on the 5 subjects for frequent recollection that the Buddha recommended doing daily or frequently, regularly. So these are the contemplations on aging, sickness, death, the impermanence of all that we hold dear, and on kamma, on our own actions and how that supports us and carries us forward. So today I thought for our sutta study we could read a sutta from which that reflection comes from. And after that I have another sutta that is, that will be like reflecting on death, how we bring this contemplation of death into our lives and let it inform our lives. And then after that, there's another sutta I'd like to read that brings the practice forward towards leading beyond that, leading to the deathless, which is indeed the promise of the Buddha's teachings, is that there is actually freedom from this, that there is a way out. There is death, but death is not all there is. There's also the Dhamma, and there's also liberation. So, I want to start though with just this first sutta. Let me pull it up. Just a moment. Okay, so this is Anguttara Nikaya 557. In the chapter of the fives, there are 5 subjects for regular reviewing, is Bhante Sujato's translation of this. Often called subjects of frequent recollection. So abhinha means frequent. Pachavekana means reflecting, recollecting, remembering, paying attention to. So, okay. These are the words of the Buddha. Mendicants, a woman or a man, a layperson or a renunciate, should often review these 5 subjects. So starting out, just clear, this is for everybody. It doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter if you're a monastic or not. This is for anybody who is interested in the Dhamma, who wants to understand and practice well in their lives. Woman or man, layperson or renunciant should often review these 5 subjects. What 5? First one, I am liable to grow old. I am not exempt from old age. A woman or a man, a layperson or a renunciate should often review this, reflect on this. So we'll go through these quickly. And then the Buddha goes on after this to explain why. Why do we reflect in this way? Not only what should we reflect, but why and how does it lead us forward? I am liable to grow old. I am not exempt from old age. I am liable to get sick. I am not exempt from sickness. I am liable to die. I am not exempt from death. I must be parted and separated from all I hold dear and beloved. I am the owner of my deeds and heir to my deeds. Deeds are my womb, my relative, and my refuge. I shall be the heir of whatever deeds I do, whether good or bad. A woman or a man, a layperson or a renunciate should often review this. So these are the 5 reflections. And this is a slightly different translation than what I shared before. There's one that's a version we often chant. So we could just chant together a little bit. Something in Pali, starting here. Jara dhammam hi jarang anatito. I am of the nature to die. I am of the nature to age. I have not gone beyond aging. Vyadhi dhammam hi vyating anatito. I am of the nature to sicken. I have not gone beyond sickness. Marana dhammam hi maranang anatito. I am of the nature to die. I have not gone beyond death. Sabehi me piehi manapehi nana bhavo vinabhavo. All that is mine, beloved and pleasing, will become otherwise, will become separated from me. Kamma sakom hi kamma dayado, kamma yoni, kamma banto, kamma patisarano. Yang kammang karisa mikalyanang wa papakang wa. Tasadayado pawisami. I am the owner of my kamma, heir to my kamma, born of my kamma, related to my kamma, and I abide supported by my kamma. Whatever kamma I shall do for good or for ill, of that I will be the heir. For some of you who are familiar with the Amaravati or Abhayagiri chanting books may be familiar with that version of this. This is what we're reading today is Bhante Sujato's translation. But these are good to memorize, good to reflect on regularly. Okay. Next question, why? What is the advantage, the Buddha asks, for a woman or man, a layperson or a renunciate, of often reviewing this? I am liable to grow old. I am not exempt from old age. I want to throw this to you. This is the Buddha's question. Why? What is the advantage? Does anyone have a thought? Why would we do this? What's helpful about it? Raise your hand or unmute yourself. Daniel?
Builds renunciation.
Sorry? It builds renunciation?
Yeah, inspires renunciation.
How so?
Knowing that there is a definite end to all of this, one questions the wisdom of being attached to it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if it's going to end, then, it's just going to like sand through your hands. Can't really hold on to it anyway. Yeah. Other thoughts? What is the advantage? Chintana, yes, please.
All right, I'm getting a lot of feedback. Okay, there's a movie called Death Becomes Her. You can't hear me?
Okay, hang on, it might be on our end here. Try again, sorry.
How about now?
Oh, okay, I can hear you. Maybe the others were hearing you before. I think it's just my speaker over here is on the fritz a little bit.
I'm getting a lot of feedback, so I'm gonna.
Okay. Well, sorry about that. Okay. Well, are you getting feedback when just I'm speaking, or no? Is it okay? All right. Well, Harry, I hope to hear what you have to say. If you want to write it in the chat.
I'll put it in the
you're
chat.
welcome.
Yeah. Oh, now I'm not getting feedback.
Oh, okay. Maybe write in the chat. And I'll take Nikki. Yes.
So for me, it's a couple of things. One is the motivation to practice. I'm going to die. I'm definitely going to be able to practice after that. I might also get sick, which may make it difficult for me to practice. So just motivation to practice. Another thing that is related is to be more ready when sickness comes. So not just suffer just because sickness comes, but actually be able to be okay with it. It's just part of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Other thoughts? Shall we go ahead and see what the Buddha says? Yeah. All right. So what is the advantage according to this sutta? I think everything you said is all true, definitely. He says, there are sentient beings who, intoxicated with the vanity of youth, do bad things by way of body, speech, and mind. Reviewing this subject often, they entirely give up the vanity of youth, or at least reduce it. Yes. Does that ring bells for anybody? I see one nodding over here.
First thing that I think of is, you know, when you're 18, you're 20 something, my brother especially, feeling invincible. So in those cases, we do things that are dangerous, which later we understand, you know, it's not wise if our goal is to work on enlightenment, to throw away this moment, this precious life. That's the first thing I think of. Being young and invincible.
Right. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. The vanity of youth. You think it's going to last, and do things that aren't wise. Okay. Other thoughts? Welcome at any time to raise your hand and if you have anything. Okay, I see Chintana's comment in the chat. It says there's a movie called Death Becomes Her, and the premise is these women took potion and can't die, yet one gets shot through with a cannon. They end up turning to help each other hold their pieces on. Aha, yes, right. Indeed, that would be. Yeah, that's quite a reflection. Thank you. All right. Anyway, giving up the vanity of youth, or at least reducing it by remembering that we will age and thinking about that regularly. This is the advantage. That they will also then give up the foolish things that they might do, intoxicated by the vanity of youth. By often reviewing this, I am liable to grow old. I am not exempt from old age. Okay. What is the advantage of often reviewing this? I am liable to get sick. I am not exempt from sickness. This one also, he says, there are sentient beings who, drunk on the vanity of health, do bad things by body, speech, and mind. Anyone think of any example of that? Yeah, Chintana, yes? No?
I'm going to try again. Okay. I'm going to ignore that. I actually had a really hard time cutting my hair off. I've had long blonde hair all my life, and I hadn't cut my hair in, I think I figured it to be 45 or 50 years. And so when I cut it short, it was what I considered to be the only thing left of my quote unquote femininity. And then I decided to not be attached to that anymore. So.
All right. Did it work?
Well, I'm not dating anyone.
Congratulations. Okay then. Yes, great. Thank you, Chintada. How about Daniel? Yes.
I was thinking some about, when it talks about doing bad things or, drunk on the vanity. I was thinking a lot of how, especially in this culture, we have such a culture of youth and a culture of beauty, and how much money and time and energy is spent celebrating that, preserving it, and essentially trying to do the impossible, which is make it stay forever. And how, even if you don't necessarily behave evilly or something, just the tremendous waste of energy and time that it takes that could be spent doing practically anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, thank you. Ananea, yes, please.
Feedback. I think it probably is in Dhammadharini, because everybody who's come on has had the problem. Anyway, that's better. Like Chintana, now I've had short hair. I did this when I was 50, and it was very liberating I really buzzed it. And so that was just a completely different way of perceiving oneself, etc. But of course, I was not beyond vanity at that point either. And hair has always been, for women is a big thing for most women. And so I'm now 80, and over the past 5 years, due to health reasons, my hair, which I never had a problem with, in woman speak would be manageable, you can do something with it, blah, blah. It just literally went haywire. Something damaged the hair roots themselves, so that one part of my hair is now frizzy. And the only thing I can do is have it cut in a way that doesn't, the frizziness is so obvious. But, it's still a very interesting thing to have even just that little bit. And I don't care that that's happened at this point, but still that there's a little, I think I want to cut like this so that it doesn't show. So there's this vestige of, still wanting to have, well, at this point, it's for my own satisfaction. I don't really care what someone else thinks about it, particularly. But yeah, it's an interesting process, especially, looking back, how that just, well, with practice also, especially, just gradually falls away. And having this chant is very, very helpful, I find. The part that goes, this body is aging, this body has not gone beyond aging, this body is prone to illness, this body has not gone beyond illness, etc. It's really, I find it to be very helpful.
Sorry, I'm going to turn my sound back on, and hopefully, I think that's, yeah, I muted myself to stop the feedback. Hopefully it's okay with just I'm talking. Is it? Yeah. Okay. I'll try to be mindful about muting myself when others are talking. Yeah, no, it's funny about the hair. Even in monastic life, then you get the vanity of having a nice, shiny, clean, shaven head. Anytime you go into a big event, everyone's like, "Oh, can we shave? Can we shave?" So that we all look nice and clean and get our robes all spiffed up and very neatly folded, right? It's just the human mind. We're these social animals, and it finds its ways. So that's why we have to be careful. We have to really just look at these things carefully and review again and again, as you say, just however many years that takes to like really see through it. Yeah, thank you. All right, let's go into the next. So we can give up the vanity of youth, the vanity of health, and this helps us to not do bad, foolish things in the way of body, speech, and mind. Okay, about this. What is the advantage of often reviewing this? I am liable to die. I am not exempt from death. There are sentient beings who, drunk on the vanity of life, do bad things by way of body, speech, and mind. Anyone have anything to share about that? Drunk on the vanity of life. Yeah. Maybe it's the same as what Mimi was saying. You think you'll live forever. And just who knows what you do. Yes, Doug, please.
This one makes me think about how if somebody just doesn't keep in mind that tomorrow's not promised, they could spend an inordinate, a disproportionate amount of time focusing on what they may do, what they could do, where they will be, and where they would go, rather than focusing on the moment and being there with people and loved ones and things like that.
Did I mute myself again? Yes, absolutely. Thank you. There's one sutta that's, not sutta, actually a Dhammapada verse that says, fools don't think that they might die the next day, but those who are wise, they settle their quarrels. If if you're in the middle of something unwholesome like that, and then you lose your life in the middle of it, or the other person does, that remains unsettled. It remains, there's not a way to clear that up anymore. And if we just really think about that, we would never leave a quarrel unsettled. Never let that sort of karma be staying and hanging with you for a long time. So anything like that, but that's the one that comes to mind based on what you said. So thank you. Yeah. Okay. So reviewing this subject often, they entirely give up the vanity of life, or at least reduce it. This is the advantage of often reviewing this. I am liable to die. I am not exempt from death. Okay. Next one. What is the advantage of often reviewing this? I must be parted and separated from all I hold dear and beloved. There are sentient beings who, aroused by desire and lust for their dear and beloved, do bad things by way of body, speech, and mind. And any examples of this come to mind? Yeah, I think people do all sorts of things aroused by desire and lust. I think of jealousy, and what people can do in cases of jealousy. They feel their loved one is doing something they don't like, or going away from them. Just there's this sense of betrayal and anger that can come from that, and all the unskillful behavior that can come from that. That's one example that comes to mind. Yeah. Or even to protect someone that you think that you love, people can do terrible things to protect. Because it has that good basis to it, that there's the intention of protection, but people can kill for those that they love, and do all sorts of things in such a case. And it's not recommended. We don't recommend killing ever, not even the little insects, not even the ants and the spiders and everybody, for monastic life, or even just for a Buddhist layperson, we recommend not killing. And that goes even if somebody is threatening what you love. Still, to kill is not recommended if there's anything else you can do. It's best to avoid. So anyway, this one, yeah, I think people get very wild about the things that they love and hold dear sometimes.
I'm thinking about being I have 2 outfits and 2 pairs of shoes, and I still am curating my life. It's very important, that sweater that I have, noticing the attachment and the that is who I am. That is part of still. It's arising, even though there's so little. So I'm reminded that's not who I am. And things are things. And the being that moves in those things is the thing, I think, even though that too will part. So if I'm to get there, I need to move past the sweater that I love so much.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So anyway, so reviewing this subject often, they entirely give up desire and lust for their dear and beloved, or at least reduce it. This is the advantage of reviewing this. I must be parted and separated from all I hold dear and beloved. Okay, what is the advantage of often reviewing like this? I am the owner of my deeds and heir to my deeds. Deeds are my womb, my relative, and my refuge. I shall be the heir of whatever deeds I do, whether good or bad. Okay. There are sentient beings who do bad things by way of body, speech, and mind. Reviewing this subject often, they entirely give up bad conduct, or at least reduce it. This is sort of a shorter one. It's a more direct link, right? It's just if I'm going to inherit the results of whatever bad conduct I do, if I'm clear on that, if I understand that, then I would just stop doing that. We're unclear on it sometimes, we think, or we're unclear on what is good or bad conduct. And we think it won't come to us, we think we can get away with things, basically. The teaching of the Buddha is basically we don't get away with it, not with anything. And that the bad conduct can be gross or subtle. There's all kinds, and that if we're increasing in our mindfulness, in our clarity, in our subtlety, then we'll be able to see even more and more the ways in which we are getting into bad conduct, and the ways in which that is affecting us, even now, and also will be in the future. It's like there's not an escape from that. If you're especially creating habits of that will carry on. And have to be able to see clearly the result of that in order to be able to come out of it. So this is to help. Reviewing the subject often, they entirely give up bad conduct, or at least reduce it. So this is the advantage for a woman or man, a layperson or a renunciate, of often reviewing like this. I am the owner of my deeds and heir to my deeds. Deeds are my womb, my relative, and my refuge. I shall be the heir of whatever deeds I do, whether good or bad. Okay. Any comments on this part before we move on? All right. Okay, let's go to the next section. So this has been reflection recommended for anyone, whatever gender, whether lay or monastic. And now we're moving on to another section where it says, that noble disciple. So somebody who now is a disciple of the Buddha, who's following the Buddha, they reflect further beyond just those initial 5. They reflect, it's not just me who is liable to grow old, not being exempt from old age. For all sentient beings grow old according to their nature, as long as they come and go, pass away, and are reborn. When they review this subject often, the path is born in them. They cultivate, develop, and make much of it. By doing so, they give up the fetters and eliminate the underlying tendencies. So this is interesting. This is a whole nother step here. It's not just I'm reducing my bad conduct, but the path is born in them. They reflect it's not just me, it's not just my personal problem here, but this is our predicament. This is what all sentient beings experience, and all of us are caught up in this same thing. And there's not a way out other than the path. So reviewing this subject often, the path is born in them. They cultivate, develop, and make much of it. By doing so, they give up the fetters and eliminate the underlying tendencies. So giving up the fetters, if it means all the fetters, this is actually awakening. This is full awakening, eliminating the underlying tendencies. This is the underlying tendencies to, greed, hatred, and delusion. It's the deep roots of all of our dukkha. This is awakening. So, inviting any comment here. How do we get from just thinking, oh, everybody gets old, to awakening? Yeah, Daniel and then Mimi.
I don't know if I can completely answer that question, but I know for me, you start to realize that this experience is universal, and not even just for other sentient beings, but like everything gets old and dies, so to speak. And I think for me, a lot of equanimity and compassion have grown from contemplating that. This sort of appreciation, understanding that we're kind of all stuck in this samsara together, and that they're going through it too in their own unique way. And then just the desire for something other than the wheel of life, death, and rebirth, the desire for something beyond growing old and dying. We've done this so many times. It's time for something else. And so at least that's how it's impacted me.
Yeah, thank you. Mimi, you had a thought?
Yeah, definitely compassion, like Daniel, but also my relationship with everything and everyone, and thus my accountability, and knowing that wherever I walk or whatever I pull on or push on is affecting everything. And so maybe I'm more careful, or reflecting more often. I'm making fewer errors or quick, harmful movements. Accountability to myself and to this web, and then relational. So we're all walking this path. It's not important whether I'm in front or behind. Probably not even linear.
Thank you. Yeah. Right, I think maybe what it comes down to is seeing dukkha not only for ourselves, but as a noble truth. That all of us are subject to this. There's not an escape to this. And, the noble truth of dukkha is that there is dukkha. That old age is dukkha. Sickness is dukkha, death is dukkha, birth is dukkha, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, despair, all of these things that come accompanying whatever kind of loss there is. This is all dukkha, and it's not escapable. Like if you can see, okay, I have dukkha in my life, but somebody else has it really good, right? Then we can think there's some difference, like there's some way to get a really great blissful existence, and if only I could do that, then I'd be fine, right? If I could, if I win the lottery, right, then I'm going to be fine. People can think this, and I know in my younger life I had it like if onlys, if only this, if only that, then I would be happy. And I got some of those things actually, and it didn't actually solve my problem. It didn't make me permanently happy, and so this is the thing, is you kind of, if you're reflecting that it's not only me, but that it's actually everybody, then that noble truth starts to be clear, that there's not an escape through just getting something better, or somehow staying young, or whatever it is. And that noble truth then being the beginning of the path, beginning of the four, if we really understand that. The path is born in them. So worth reflecting on. This is our escape. If we can reflect clearly and well on this again and again. Okay, let's go on. It's not just me who is liable to get sick, not being exempt from sickness, for all sentient beings get sick according to their nature, as long as they come and go, pass away, and are reborn. When they review this subject often, the path is born in them. They cultivate, develop, and make much of it. By doing so, they give up the fetters and eliminate the underlying tendencies. Similarly, it's not just me who is liable to die, not being exempt from death. For all sentient beings die according to their nature, as long as they come and go, pass away, and are reborn. It's not just me who must be parted and separated from all I hold dear and beloved. For all sentient beings must be parted and separated from all they hold dear and beloved, as long as they come and go, pass away, and are reborn. When they review this subject often, the path is born in them. They cultivate, develop, and make much of it. By doing so, they give up the fetters and eliminate the underlying tendencies. It's not just me who shall be the owner of my deeds and heir to my deeds, but all sentient beings shall be the owners of their deeds and heirs to their deeds, as long as they come and go, pass away, and are reborn. When they review this subject often, the path is born in them. They cultivate, develop, and make much of it. By doing so, they give up the fetters and eliminate the underlying tendencies. And for all of these, it's just so onward leading, the path, the birth of the path. Yeah, and just the universality of it, like we can see where we are right now and compare ourselves to others and think it could be better somehow, that we're going to make this life, this world, this things better in a way that's going to solve the problems, that's going to make us all okay. And it's just saying, no, actually, it's not. There's not a way, we can improve things. And if there's extreme suffering in front of us and we can do something about it, then we should. In practical, normal, daily ways. But yeah, it's not the ultimate solution. Just working in such a way, because even in the Deva realms, they say that the Devas, they live very, very long lives, very happy, very blissful. They're very beautiful in their bodies, and they're always just sort of having, naturally covered in flower garlands, sweet smelling, and sweet smelling skin and hair, and the flowers never wilt, except when they're about to die. Then the flowers wilt, and then they get body odor, and then they die. That's what it says. That's what happens to the Devas before their death. That's how they know it's coming close, is that they start getting body odor and their flowers, garlands wilt. So for them, that's their sickness. That's their old age, is that they're just, they get a little sweaty and the flowers wilt, and then they pass away, and then they go somewhere else, who knows where, and depending on their karma. And I'm always amused by that image, because but you can see, like, really, if you had lived such a beautiful, perfect life that long, that would be so disturbing. It's like suddenly there's a bad smell, and I never experienced that before. And like, how, you sort of feel for them, and feel for all of us. Like, even in that most heavenly realm, there is this passing away and ending and old age and sickness and death and everything. It's not escapable, even in these heavenly realms. And if we see this clearly, then that is the start of our path. Okay, so here we go. The verses here. This is like summary verses at the end. For others, sickness is natural, and so are old age and death. Though this is how their own nature is, ordinary people feel disgusted. If I were to be disgusted with creatures whose nature is such, it would not be appropriate for me, since my life is just the same. Living in such a way, I understood the truth without attachments. I mastered all vanities of health, of youth, and even of life. Seeing renunciation as sanctuary, zeal sprang up in me, and as I looked to extinguishment, nibbana. Now I'm unable to indulge in sensual pleasures. There's no turning back. I'm committed to the spiritual life. This is Buddha's words here. Any comment on this? I have another sutta for you, but before we move on, anything to share? Elaine, yes.
I think it is true once you start taking refuge. The practice can sometimes be like better, like, wow, I feel like I'm getting somewhere, or wow, that was neat. I hate to say that, but it's true. Sometimes it fills up and sometimes it feels more down. But if you feel disillusioned all at times and start looking around and thinking, what are they doing over there? And that you quickly go back to, no, this is really working. I just, it's true that you start on that path and it's kind of like, no, this is it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the confidence of starting on the path and seeing, yeah, this is better. It's better than whatever health or youth or whatever I may have had before. And then, as you say, like zeal springs up. That's what it says. You think, okay, yeah, this is better, and this is the way to go, and you have energy, and wonderful. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
I wonder sometimes if things aren't put in front of you, like I'm getting a little bit of feedback.
Oh, sorry, I unmuted myself. Let me.
I heard one Aya talking about killing and how she would never ever do that anymore. And she was talking about spiders. And I had a 3-day period in my bathroom. I had a little spider in the corner, kind of dangling, hanging out. And I just lived there peacefully, right? And then he moved over to the mirror, and then the next day he was sitting on the toilet cover. But then the next day he was dangling in front of my face, and I thought, I need to move you. But yeah, it's so true that I'm not going to kill this little guy, right? He can live wherever he wants to be. But yeah, just funny the change in attitude. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Yes, that training in not killing, it's amazing how much can change just from avoiding killing spiders. I felt that in myself, that I never had a big problem with insects, but I didn't love them, and I didn't like a spider to be close to me. But after I undertook the 5 precepts and was practicing with them regularly, I remember one day just realizing I was picking up a spider in my hand to move it to safety, and that it wasn't even the first time I had done that. And it's just like, oh, this is a shift. I'm just noticing this is a shift in what I'm able to do. And you can pick up a spider in your hand. They don't bite. Generally, you can just carry them. Or they also like to dangle on a little string. If you get the string, you can just take them out. It's very convenient, like a little handle. Yeah, and it's just, you really do develop like a care for this being just through the act of restraining from killing, and it's a wonderful thing. So I'm glad you've experienced that also. Let's see, I'm going to call on Richard. Yes, please.
Thank you, Raya. This sutta, this section here, it reminds me of Majjhima Nikaya 26, the Noble Search. This is the same type of thoughts that the Buddha was having that set him off on the path of renunciation. Said, this is Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. Bhikkhus, before my enlightenment, while I was still only an unenlightened bodhisattva, I too, being myself subject to birth, sought what was also subject to birth. Being myself subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement, I sought what was also subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement. Then I considered thus, why being myself subject to birth do I seek after what is also subject to birth? Why being myself subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement, do I seek what is also subject to aging, sickness, death, sorrow, and defilement? And eventually he, contemplating that enough, it leads him to leave home in search of Nibbana. Anyway, thank you very much for listening.
Sadhu. Yes, absolutely. It is, when you see clearly, I think it is very strongly propels onto the path. If you really get the vision of like just how much dukkha there is and just how much we're all caught up in this together, then yeah, absolutely. I think for the Buddha, that was part of the impetus for his going forth. And for us too, it can be. It inspires us to renunciation, it inspires us to stepping forward. And so yeah, thank you for sharing that part of the Buddha's story, because I think it's very much there in the background of this sutta also. Yeah. All right. Okay. Anything more on this particular sutta, or I can move to the next. All right. Okay, I'll bring us to the next sutta, which is this one is from Anguttara Nikaya 749, and this one this one is about the next step after the path is born. How do we go forward? So the Buddha starts by saying, mendicants, these 7 perceptions, when cultivated and developed, are very fruitful and beneficial. They culminate in freedom from death and end in freedom from death. So, after the path is born, then this is the promise, is that it does lead us forward. This is a strong start to this sutta, right? How do we go to freedom from death? What are these 7 perceptions? What 7? The perceptions of ugliness, death, repulsiveness of food, dissatisfaction with the whole world, impermanence, suffering in impermanence, and not self in suffering. So, it's quite a list, actually. It's the sort of thing when people talk about Buddhism, how it's so negative and depressing. This is the kind of thing that they're thinking of, right? Perception of ugliness, death, repulsiveness of food, dissatisfaction with the whole world, impermanence, suffering in impermanence, not self in suffering. Sounds like kind of a depressing list. So I just want to acknowledge that off the bat. And I wanted to read this first sutta first to kind of like prime us for this, to prime us for why we would want to practice this kind of renunciation. Really, these are all kind of renunciate practices. But the Buddha says these 7 perceptions, when developed and cultivated, are very fruitful and beneficial. They culminate in freedom from death and end in freedom from death. Okay. Comments here? How does this list strike you when you read it? Any comments? Okay. And then we can go on. So perception of ugliness. This is asubha. You know, so asubha, the unbeautiful, the disgusting, the non-subha. Subha is beautiful, and asubha is unbeautiful. Can be taught in various ways. Often the 32 parts of the body are given as an asubha contemplation. Like hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, skin. It goes on to the flesh and the bones and the guts and the bodily liquids and the feces and the undigested food in the stomach and just all the stuff that is in this body. This is the sort of most commonly taught meditation or reflection on asubha. And that's what's referred to most of the time when they're talking about asubha, so ugliness. When the perception of ugliness is developed and cultivated, it's very fruitful and beneficial. It culminates in freedom from death and ends in freedom from death. That's what I said, but why did I say it? So the Buddha is quizzing us. Any thoughts, initial thoughts before I reveal what the Buddha said about this?
I certainly feel as if I'm being asked to see the flip side of everything I want. I want health, and there is the ugly. If there's beauty, there's ugly. And if those divisions can go away, then perhaps there's the deathless. It's yin yang for me. It's the completion of the what I've created or the how I'm seeing, by allowing me to see through it to the other side, see it completely.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Would you like to comment? Yeah. Okay. One more comment in the room.
This is the microphone.
Okay. No. Okay. All right. Okay. Not yet. Okay. Thank you. All right, Richard. Yes.
Thank you. These terms being translated as ugliness and repulsiveness of food. Ugliness can also just be subha attractive, asubha unattractive. It just means things are unattractive. And repulsiveness of food, the Pali can be more like concept of unpleasantness. Like the whole process of getting food and eating food and the digestion and everything else is like unpleasant. It's just my personal opinion. I don't think Buddha was so strongly trying to emphasize like super negativity. He was just trying to see things as it is and how everything eventually ends in dukkha. Suffering like that, and then it's really not worth it, to try to participate in samsara because of that process. So I think when we use too strong a term like ugliness or repulsiveness, I think they're very condemning, and I don't think Buddha really had a condemning type of consciousness like that. I think he had more of just a purely, seeing things as they are with insight. Because, some people can hear these type of things and maybe be insulted by it, right? If someone doesn't think they're very attractive and people are talking about ugliness, they might feel like, oh, I'm ugly and people are, making fun of me or repulsed by me or something like that. So I'm just saying, since there's other ways to look at these terms in Pali, other ways to translate them. Even Bhikkhu Bodhi, this asubha, in his translation, he says, unattractive. He doesn't use ugly like that. So anyway, it's just my opinion. I just don't see Buddha, in that way. That's just my opinion. But anyway, thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's an important point that we don't want to go too far to either extreme of, thinking things are inherently awful, like food or the body. I think the ultimate is the Buddha is pointing out a view of equanimity, but I guess I think the value of these terms is that depending on where somebody's at with their relationship to food or the body, if they have an extremely inflated, idealized version of, idea of it, then these terms, through the sort of shock, it has a certain shock value to like break somebody out of that if they're in that. I think especially like in our culture, we have so much body negativity, and people are trained to be like very ashamed of their bodies. And so for us, when we hear about the body being so ugly and disgusting and so forth, then it can feed into that, which is an overly negative, cultural construct that we have around the body, and that gets reinforced, as opposed to sort of being a corrective to an idea that the body is so beautiful and wonderful and lovely. I think, the story I always think of is, I think it's Ajahn Chah, that somebody asked Ajahn Chah, you teach this person this thing, and you teach that other person the opposite thing, and what's going on? And Ajahn Chah said, well, this one's going off in that direction, and the other one's going off in the other direction. If you're trying to walk down the street, and you're going off into the ditch to the right, I'm going to tell you go left. And if you're going off into the ditch to the left, I'm going to tell you go right. And the game is just you go straight down the middle. So that's sort of, I think, is what I think of about these terms, is that if you think the body is so perfect and lovely and permanent, and then you might need some sort of corrective to that, go left, get back to the middle. But I do agree that I think what it's aiming at is actually the middle, the equanimous view of the body, just as it is clearly. Yes, thank you for bringing that forward, because I think it is an important thing for people to not get the wrong idea and go too far into negativity also. I agree the Buddha was not aiming for that. Daniel.
Yeah, earlier, you mentioned people kind of saying, oh, that, this is why Buddhism is so negative, like these very kind of harsh images. But I think of the previous sutta we read, and, what it taught is incontrovertible. That is to say, like, it's not really a matter of religion or belief. Telling people we're all going to die someday isn't really up for argument or debate. And to me, I feel like there's a certain sanity making in it. Like, you don't have to pretend like these things aren't real anymore. You don't have to like run from them, hide from them, don't talk about them, don't acknowledge them. You can say that they're there, and it's very comfortable to say that they're there. And so to me, it feels very not so much negative, but clear maybe. And I think I'll just say it again, sanity making. It feels sane. It feels like, oh, good. I don't have to hold on to pretending like none of this is going to happen. Like, samsara is great, and we're happy, and everything's happy, and we're going to be okay. I can acknowledge the reality of it. So that's always been my experience of some of what people have called some of the more negative kind of aspects of the suttas.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely. Ananea, yes, please.
I know this is an disagree sort of thing, but I guess I want to suggest, as Richard mentioned, is that I think it's helpful. Bhikkhu Sujato has a, I don't want to call it his mission, but in his translations, he's looking to bring the language more into the current era. And I think it's helpful to read Bhikkhu Bodhi, who isn't like flowery and, ancient sounding, but it's good to have a perspective on both those translators, Bhikkhu Bodhi being the most preeminent. There's also Tanjef Tanisaro Bhikkhu, who also translates and does excellent translation to get to have perhaps a fuller sense of what the meanings are. And also with ugliness versus the word unattractive, I think it too, for persons who have more of an aversive personality, which I would include myself in that, I've been told by quite a few teachers, when you have this kind of a personality or leaning, that focusing on Subha is not helpful, because your mind tends to go to that anyway, see that first, as opposed to the opposite. So it doesn't take away, I'm not trying to take away from the language or the impact of the language, but just to suggest that this is where, like you were mentioning, there's a perspective here, and the Buddha was always capable of, reflecting to the audience that he was addressing in a way that that audience could really take it in. And so if you have the time and you can look at a couple translations of the same one, I just think it's just a suggestion that I find it to be helpful.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely, even if we don't have time all to learn the Pali language, still, if you have time to look at a few of the several now good English translations that exist, it can definitely give a fuller idea, more broad and hopefully clear idea of what these terms mean, because they're, it's not a one-to-one relationship between the English word and the Pali word. The translator has to choose just one, but they're always going to lose some nuance or some common connotation. And so looking at a few different translators, I completely agree, is a good way to investigate this and get the different flavors, get a fuller view. And absolutely, I think all of these things on this list, they're valuable, but I want to contextualize them. That they're I think, as Mimi was saying, like, they're the flip side of a view of the world as being too beautiful and therefore impossible to step away from, which is also false. If the world, because the world is actually not that, it has its downsides, the world, which is what we were talking about in the last sutta. It's not going to be completely satisfying, even if we do see it as very lovely. And so then this teaching here is a corrective to that, the idea that there's something that we really need to cling to and in the world in that way. But it's not to deny that there is the beautiful things in the world. And it's not to deny that the body can be beautiful and the food can be delicious and that there is life and that, it's not to deny any of that, but just to say that if those things are your source of satisfaction that you're looking for in the world, you're going to be disappointed at some point. Those things are not ultimately satisfying, and developing the perception of their alternative, of their opposite, is meant to sort of be bringing you out of that, bringing you some sort of freedom from just getting caught up in that, because otherwise there's not a way out. If you're just going to what's beautiful and not looking at what's unbeautiful, then you're going to get stuck. You're going to have that unbeautiful in your face at some point, and whether you're prepared for it or not. And that's just the truth. So it's like to look clearly, to look at both sides. And so these perceptions are related to that. Okay, so we've only got a few more minutes. I want to move forward here. So we will stick with Bhante Sujata's translation, but if ugliness seems too strong, welcome to the unattractiveness in your mind. Okay, when the perception of ugliness is developed and cultivated, it's very fruitful and beneficial. It culminates in freedom from death and ends in freedom from death. That's what I said, but why did I say it? So this is also, I just want to say, this is a strong thing I'm about to say. And we'll talk about it. When a mendicant often meditates with the mind reinforced with the perception of ugliness, their mind draws back from sexual intercourse. They shrink away, turn aside, and get drawn into it. And either equanimity or revulsion become stabilized. It's like a chicken's feather or a scrap of sinew thrown in a fire. It shrivels up, shrinks, rolls up, and doesn't stretch out. In the same way, when a mendicant often meditates with the mind reinforced with the perception of ugliness, their mind draws back from sexual intercourse. So, I want to say, the Buddha did not condemn sexuality, not in a wholesale way. He didn't say that it's sinful. He didn't say that people are bad if they have sex. For somebody living a lay life, it's considered a normal part of life, and it doesn't have the same hang-ups about it that some of our culture here in the U.S. today has. However, for the monastics, we are celibate. This is what is recommended by the Buddha for those who are really committed to awakening as quickly as possible. He does recommend celibacy at that point, not because it's more holy in some way, but because of sexuality being so much getting us caught up, right? We get attached through that to so many things, right? To people and places, and just so much gets involved in that. The whole of family life, and then monastics also are stepping out of family life. Because of those attachments, it's very difficult with that kind of attachment to be able to let go of it all. And so for the monastics, yes, this is Asubha, the reflection on the 32 parts of the body, is traditionally taught as a way for those who have entered monastic life but have not yet given up their sexual desire, that they can practice this as a way of coming out of it. In some modern places, it gets taught as like you look at the object of your sexual desire in terms of like taking their body apart in this way. That's not actually the way the Buddha taught it. He said, look at your own body. Look at your own body and see what it's made of. That it's hair and flesh and nails and skin and bones and organs and undigested food, all of this. And is that where you're putting your happiness? Is that what you're relying on for your happiness and connection? And if you're looking clearly in that way, it can be for others too, but not only for others. It's not like sometimes it's taught for the like young boy novices, like look at women this way, and that's not what the Buddha said. He didn't say this is specifically to look at women in terms of their disgustingness of their bodies. He said, just bodies are like this. Look at your own and ask yourself, is this where I want to place my sense of happiness and safety and wellness or not? So Asubha allows us to take a step back from that, a step back from relying on sexuality as a place for our happiness, because it's dicey, right? If you're trying to put your happiness there, how does that go for you? Are there any comments at this point? Anything to share?
It goes like a roller coaster. Yeah, I think the key words for me there are relying on for your happiness. Yes, it can be part of your happiness, but if you're relying on that for your happiness, and that's it will also go, and it is not reliable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chintana, please. Thank you, Lily.
I think it's interesting how it says perception of ugliness, their mind draws back from sexual intercourse. One would think it would say from sexual thinking about it sexually instead of intercourse. I don't know, intercourse is not the first word that comes to mind for me in that sentence, so I thought it was a little odd.
Yeah, it's a good point. Certainly there's a lot to sexuality that is not just intercourse. And so Metuna Dhamma, again, I think this may be sort of focused on monastics in particular, and it is actually very, very precisely defined in the Vinaya of what counts as the level of sexuality that you need to be really careful of. It's it's not sexual thoughts, but there's no precept that says you can't have sexual thoughts. But there are multiple precepts saying you cannot act on those thoughts. And actually, sexual intercourse is, if you do that as a monastic, you're no longer a monastic. That's just ends your monastic life right there. So this, I think, for a monastic audience, then this is just like, this is the dividing line. You just stay as far away from that as you can, but that is the dividing line there. Anyway.
I had one more thing that
Yeah, please.
I was really shocked to find out that masturbation was part of chastity. Yeah, I just thought I'd mention that in case anybody doesn't know that.
Yes, masturbation is mentioned in the Vinaya, and you're not supposed to do it as a monastic. Yeah, so you're supposed to be stepping out of this entirely, giving this up, not putting your happiness there as much as possible. For the monastics, for those who are wanting to go beyond this worldly life, going towards the deathless, that is recommended. Daniel, yes?
Yeah, please feel free to correct me if maybe I'm a little off here, but some too, I think about it like when we have to sort of culturally contextualize it and think about, at the time, sexual intercourse and having a family and living a very demanding household or life. I mean, it's challenging to raise children. Like today, imagine 2,600 years ago, you work from morning till night to, survive. How that challenges and makes it so much harder to practice the Dhamma. And I think of it not so much as, the bodies are bad or sex is evil or something like that, but more just that the life that this creates for one, that the lifestyle that this enters into, it makes it much more challenging, especially back then, to practice in this way. And so, I don't know, that's generally how I've kind of interpreted and thought about it as well when I looked at the different prohibitions in the suttas and the Vinaya.
Yeah, thank you. That's true. It's related to a whole way of life, not just in sex in itself. Richard, yes.
Thank you. Along with what Michael said, this word patikulya, translated here as revulsion, it says that it literally means going up the slope. So, like anyone who knows, trying to go up a hill or a long slope or something, it's very difficult and tiring, and you run out of breath, unless you're like a world-class athlete or something, and I think that's kind of like what the real mood is. It's like, it's not worth it. It's too, so either you're equanimous, but if you can't maintain an equanimous type mind, then you need to see it's just not worth it to go through all that trouble and difficulty and hassle, like that. Anyways, I just thought I'd throw that in there. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, and I completely agree. This is interesting that either equanimity or revulsion becomes stabilized. That these are the proper attitudes, and usually, in the suttas as they move towards liberation, revulsion is a stage, nibbida, different word than patikula, which is what's here. But nibbida is often or sometimes translated as revulsion, sometimes translated as disenchantment. So those are quite different translations, but either way, getting tired of whatever that thing is, turning away from it. And then that is a stage it's before equanimity. It's sort of leading up to equanimity. And equanimity is, so much of Buddha's teachings are arranged into lists. And it's like equanimity is the end of the list in quite a few of those lists. Not all of them. It's not the same as nibbana, but it's considered as sort of like the highest emotional state that you could be in, basically, is equanimity, of just sort of being at ease with the things, not disgust, and also not attraction, just like letting it be, looking on. Okay, well, I want to acknowledge it's 2:30, and we've only gotten through one of these reflections that leads to the deathless. I want to say this one, I think, in some ways may be the most challenging one, so I'm glad we had some time to talk about it. I want to read just a little bit further. Anyone who needs to go, please, I will not be offended. It is our ending time, but I just want to sort of go through this a little bit quickly to give you a flavor of the rest of this. So anyway, if a mendicant often meditates with a mind reinforced with the perception of ugliness, but their mind is drawn to sexual intercourse and not repulsed, they should know, my perception of ugliness is undeveloped. I don't have any distinction higher than before. I haven't attained a fruit of development. In this way, they are aware of the situation. So again, this is not condemning them. They're just saying, oh, this is what it is. I still have this this attraction, this mind being drawn in a certain way. But if a mendicant often meditates with a mind reinforced with perception of ugliness, their mind draws back from sexual intercourse, they should know, my perception of ugliness is well developed. I have realized a distinction higher than before. I have attained a fruit of development. In this way, they are aware of the situation. Again, just sort of knowing where you're at in a kind of neutral way. When the perception of ugliness is developed and cultivated, it's very fruitful and beneficial. It culminates in freedom from death and ends in freedom from death. That's what I said, and this is why it said it. So, and then for each of these subsequent perceptions, the discussion is the same. So it's abbreviated here. I'll just read through them quickly. The first one was a perception of ugliness. Next one, when the mendicant often meditates with a mind reinforced with perception of death, their mind draws back from desire to be reborn. When a mendicant often meditates with a mind reinforced with the perception of the repulsiveness of food, their mind draws back from craving for tastes. When a mendicant often meditates with a mind reinforced with the perception of dissatisfaction with the whole world, their mind draws back from the world's shiny things. When a mendicant often meditates with a mind reinforced with the perception of impermanence, the mind draws back from material things, honors, and fame. When a mendicant often meditates with a mind reinforced with the perception of suffering in impermanence, they establish a keen perception of the danger of sloth, laziness, slackness, negligence, lack of commitment, and failure to review, like a killer with a drawn sword. So, if you see this clearly, you would have some urgency about it. When perception of not self in suffering is developed and cultivated, it's very fruitful and beneficial. When a mendicant often meditates with a mind reinforced with the perception of not self in suffering, their heart is rid of eye-making, mind-making, and conceit for this conscious body and all external stimuli. It has gone beyond discrimination and is peaceful and well freed. So, this is it. This is the quick version. These 7 perceptions, when developed and cultivated, are very fruitful and beneficial. They culminate in freedom from death and end in freedom from death. And it's because of stepping back from all of this stuff and finding somewhere else to stand, stepping out of all of this, all of the eye-making, mind-making conceit for this conscious body and all external stimuli. No longer discriminating, being peaceful, like stepping out of all of this, then what it can be found is peacefulness and freedom. And this is how we come to freedom from death, is by stepping out of all of that. So with that, we're a few minutes over. I invite any final comments, and if not, then we could go ahead for closing. Any final comments? No. In that case, we could close, and I hope this is more uplifting and promising and not too negative and depressing. It's showing us the way out. And whether we're ready to go all the way, whether we're feeling that urgency yet or not, still I find it encouraging to know that there is a way. And I hope that for all of you also, you can feel the faith and inspiration of that, and that when it is the time, that you'll be able to make good use of this. So we can pay our respects to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha together. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Suakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Elaine?
Sadhu, sadhu,
Sadhu,
sadhu.
sadhu. Good to see you.
Okay, yes, good to see you all also. Thank you for joining. And hope to see you next time. We still have a few more weeks in Death Awareness Month, so we can keep thinking about it. See you Tuesday. I think we'll have, on Tuesday, we'll have Ayasubhi Jana back. She's the founder of Death Awareness Month, and so she'll be sharing with us on Tuesday evening. Hope to see you.